Good morning, everybody. All right, so today is a new parak, a Naya parak, a Naya Mishnah. So the third parak, beginning of the third parak, I believe, right? So down in the bottom of Chafim and Beis, 3 lines on the bottom, and away we go. Arba nedarim hitiru chacham. There are 4 nedarim types of categories of nedarim that are permitted. When we say permitted, in other words, they are not chal, and we'll soon see that one does not necessarily even have to be shayel, has to go ahead and have them be permitted by a Beis Din or by a Yachid Mumcha. So and what are they? And there's 4 different categories, and the Mishnayos will go through them. So our first Mishnah is going to touch upon the first category, but first let's list the categories. Nidrei Zeruzin, Nedarim that are meant to be Mizari somebody, right? Perhaps, as we'll soon see, a negotiating tactic, perhaps, is one of the Pshatim. So something to be Mizari is to get somebody else to do something. So that's called Nidrei Zeruzin. It's that nether is not a chal, whatever he says, we'll soon see, but Nidrei Havai, or perhaps something which is exaggerated, right? Something which is, I'll give you $1 million, right? It's, something which is, not, was known really not to be consistent with reality. Nidrei Shkagos, or something that was on mistaken information. The Nidrei Einsin, or something that basically an Einis occurred and therefore prevented or did not, or either prevented or caused the nether to be chal, something which is Einis out of one's control. And we'll have to explain each category, but let's go to the first one. Nidrei Zeruzin, that's what we'll discuss today, Ketzad. So what is the case of Nidrei Zeruzin? Nadarim to be Mizari is somebody to cause somebody to do something. So Ketzad, Hayam Meicher Chayfetz, the guy was selling an item. Va'amar, and he says, Kainen she'eni peiches lecha minas. He says, Va'amar Kainen she'eni peiches lecha minasel. The guy says, I'm not going to sell this to you. He's trying to negotiate. He wants a higher price. He says, if you sell it to me, minasela, right? Say something for a dinar, right? $1, right? If it's more than $1, if I sell it to you, if I sell it to you for anything less than $1, your money is prohibited to me. In other words, basically, I'm not going to sell for less than $1. So that's what he says. The buyer says, right now, the items offered to me. If I pay anything more than 50 cents, right, has shekels, half a selah. Shnehem. That's around the page there. Shnehem writes him the shleish nedarim. Basically, both of them are trying to get to the point of 3, which is 75 cents, right? 4. One says 4 dinarim. The other one said, I'm not going to sell it to you less than 4. The other one says 2. And basically, this is not chal because they're agreeing on 3. And therefore, neither one has another, right? The money's an usher to the seller, the item is an usher to the buyer, because neither nether is chal. We'll have to understand why. What is that? Sure. Okay. As long as it don't burn down, we're good. All right. That was the mission. Now we're going to have to understand really what is the reason of the Nidrei Zeruzin. Amen. So our Mishnah of Arba Nedarim, the Matir knows what that is that these have an opening. They don't really even need to be permitted. Amar le Rabbi Abba, Bar Memel Rabbi Ami. Amar to Mishmid Rabbi Yehuda and the Sia. You said the name to us the name of Yehuda and Sia. Mantana Arba Nedarim. Who is the author of Arba Nedarim? The Arba Mishnah. Whose sheet is that? Rabbi Yehuda. That is the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda. The Amar Mishnah Rabbi Tarfon. Le'yelam ein echad mehem nazir. Lafi shaloi nisan naziris el lahafla. Right. So this Rabbi Yehuda in another case who says in the Tarfon. Basically, we saw this case a little earlier. You have 2 people standing there, and then you see somebody, coming from a distance, and the guy says, "If that guy's a nazir, I'm going to be a nazir." And the other guy says, "If that guy's not a nazir, I'll be a nazir." So one of them is going to be a nazir. So it says Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Rabbi Tarfon. Neither one works. Why is that? Because at the time of the Kabbalah's Nazirus, there wasn't clarity. They didn't know. One of them was going to be a Nazir, but since there was no clarity when a person was Makabal Nazirus, neither of them were 100% sure. Therefore, it does not work. I can say one kid. Why don't you both? Because it's showing that Right. It's showing that either way, it doesn't make a difference. The point, right. And economic, if it's one person who says that that person's a Nazir, I'm a Nazir, and the person was a Nazir, and so it doesn't work. It's to show you that even though one of them is going to be 100% correct, that, right, to pass, right.
Saying two different people together in the same thing. You're saying if that person's Nazir or if another person's not a Nazir.
Me and you are standing there, we see a person in the distance. I say, that person's Nazir. It's like, he's not a Nazir. I'm calling he's not. I'm like, if that person's a Nazir, I'll be a Nazir. And you say, no, if that person's not a Nazir, I'll be a Nazir. So one of us are going to be correct. Either way, neither one is a Nazir. Either one is correct because we did at the time we made it, we didn't know it's actually. So therefore, what is this? Why is it similar to our Mishnah? So our Mishnah, the guy is saying your money is going to be usher to me. Let's say the seller. If I sell it to you less than 4, right? Then 4 dinar. Now he doesn't know whether his nether is going to Michal. If he sells it to him for 5, there comes a bidding war. He sells it for 5, so the nether was never Chal. So since he doesn't know whether the nether is going to be Chal, therefore you don't even need to be mater. It's already mutter. So that was Rabbi Abba Bar Memel, the name of Rabbi Yidin Nasiya. And Rav Amar Afilu.
In the first case, you control it. You can always change your mind. In that case, he's another.
Right. Okay. Right. So that could be maybe Rava. Let's see Rava. And Rava was really more of my understanding of the Mishnah. Rav Amar Afilu Temer Rabbanan. It even says Shita Rabbanan that says there is such a case would be Chal, but why in this case is not? Samik Tani Shnei and Rotsu. Right. Doesn't mean that both of them came, at the end of the Mishnah it says that, they agreed on 3. Is it because in the end they agreed on 3 and that's why it's not Chal? No, Reis in Ketani. It means that's what they wanted the whole time. In other words, he didn't really mean to ask for the guy's money. He was using it as a negotiating tactic. Don't come back to me with an offer sheet of less than, without a 4 in front of it or whatever it is, right? So that's, he's making a net. So he didn't do it because he's just using it as a negotiating tactic, but really he'll take a little less. So therefore, since at the outset said Rava, that was never the intention of the buyer, the seller to make the nether. They really didn't want the nether to be chal. They're just using it as a negotiating tactic because they eventually want to go ahead and get to 3. So Amalei Ravina Ravashi. So says Ravina Ravashi, Amalei Tfei Sella. So now, a seller is very general. A seller was a coin. It was 4 dinarim. The guy says basically 4.1. I'm not going to get any hana from your money if I sell it for less than 4.1 slime. V'halaymer b'tzil m'shekel and the jahavi. That is no, a little bit less, right? Slightly less than a seller. In other words, 1.9 dinar, right? Very specific amounts. Is that Nijay Havi? Do we say since they're very specific, they just didn't use a general term, right? If it's less than $1 billion, I'm not even going to look at that. 4.1, 1.9, right? Very specific. Or maybe it's the same category. Once again, the buyer and seller are just sort of, playing games here to try to get the other guy to, up or lower their price. So Tanina, we learned. So someone was outside someone's house, and the guy said, "Come on in." He's like, "No, thank you, I'm good. Come on, come in." Your house, right? Your house is forbidden for me that from now which I enter your house. In other words, he's saying basically making a nether that I'm not going to go into your house, right? Thank you for the kind offer, but your house is forbidden for me to go ahead and get hana from. Or tibas tzayim shani tayim, or even a drop of water from you is also to me. Mutter, such a case nevertheless is mutter. It's not a good nether. The kanis, mutter the kanis the beisa, Belisha, say man, it's turning. All right, it's mutter for him to go ahead and enter his house, and it's mutter for him to drink water. He wasn't being literal when he says, "I'm not going to drink even a drop of water." Basically, he's just trying to tell the host, I'm not here for a meal. I can't come in. Come on in. So he's making the shvua basically for the host to understand. Okay, I'm not going to get this guy for a meal, but maybe I'll just get him to make a shahakal, right? So therefore, since initially when he made the shvua, he wasn't, he didn't have the mind. What do you mean? He just said, right, a drop of water, right? He just said a drop of water, and therefore, right, he should be usher on those two things. People say such a way, and so too, So people say it's so specific, even a drop of water. So therefore, someone also, if he says 4.1, maybe he literally means 4.1, and therefore right. So therefore, when he says it, he doesn't say basically. So when he says a drop of water, he's not being specific to a drop of water. So over here, 4.1 is also a negotiating, tactic. Samarley. So he said, "Samidami, how could you compare the case over there? Maybe over there, the reason why he was specific to such a small amount, midami gabit sainin sadikim ayri me'ad v'oisin harbet sadikim. They say a little and do a lot. They say just enter my house, but when they said just enter my house, they really mean come inside and have a big meal, right? That's what they were saying. So therefore, he had to go ahead and be specific, not to do even this small amount. However, hacha sveiku, but over here it's a suffix. Dilma pachas misel v'yeiser al shekel kamar v'zrizin habi. Dilma dafkin kamar, right? V'nidra habi. So therefore, but in this case it's different. In this case, maybe he's being specific, or maybe he's just using it as a negotiating tactic. Tiboy. So therefore, this question remains unanswered, and you can't learn from that case over there, because that case where he was specific was just basically to fend off. Getting served a full 5-course meal. Fine. 5 lines from the top. Amar Yehuda, Amar Asi, Arba Nedarim Halut Tzrichin Sheila. These 4 Nedarim require asking a Chacham to go ahead or to be matir, either a Chacham or a Yachin Mumcha or a basin of 3. However, can we say Kamei de Shmuel when it says for Shmuel Amar Tani Arba Nedarim Hitiru Chachamim? What do you mean? Our Mishnah says these 4 Nadarim are permitted. And you saying it requires one to go ahead and be Shaila to a Chacham. So Rav Yosef and Rav Yosef taught the same limud, but a little slightly different. So says Rav Yudah Ravasi that a Chacham cannot be matir, rather, but only like these 4 Nadarim. Why? Because he holds that one cannot matir a neder through charata. Now, these 4 nadarim, these categories, there's reasons why to say they're not a neder. Either they really didn't mean what they say, such as a case of negotiating, or there were unseen circumstances, a case of einsin, right, or the exaggeration. So all these cases, if you have these issues in a neder, so then a Talmid Chacham can be matir, or then the basin can matir and say, oh, you weren't being specific, you really weren't being sincere, you didn't mean it when you said, right, if you come to shul on time, I'm going to give you $1 million. You didn't mean it, right? It was, so therefore, such a case you could do, you can match the nether. But for charata, you cannot. Remorse. In other words, a person, the easiest way to get out of a nether is the guy says, okay, this will be also to me if I go ahead and if I don't golf tomorrow, right? And the guy golfs tomorrow, right? he couldn't hold himself back, so he has remorse for making the nether. So obviously he's going to a beis din to ask them to permit his nether. So obviously he has remorse. That's the easiest way to get out of any nether, right? Why else are you going to hell and being a matir? I regret making this nether in the first place. So therefore, says Rabbi Yehuda Ravasi, you can't permit a nether through, right, that's not a good reason, through remorse. However, we have cases where Chachamim were matir, as we'll soon see in the next 4 cases. There was a person who came before Rav Huna. Amarle libcha alecha, right? We are usually defined as, as your heart, but, were you settled? Were you thinking straight, right? When you made this, Amarle lo. And he says, no, when I made the net, that was not being straight. The sharia, and therefore he permitted the net. And similarly, I would ask the comment Rav Huda, a guy got upset that he made a certain net. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to get hana from the shul. Very angry at it. Says, if there were 10 people there to appease you, right? Minadarta, would you have made the nether? No, I wouldn't have. If people were there, calm me down, and I never would have made the nether. Fitira, once again, they matir in such a situation. And we have a brisa, just like these Amarayim. So Tanya Rabbi Yehuda Adam leaves alecha, right? Was your mind into it? Were you settled when he met it? And he But he says no. Then matir no. So then we permit for him. And Rabbi Shlomo Rabbi Yosi Aimer Mishum Avi says the name of his father in the name of Rabbi Yosi. We say to a person, if there were, you had 10 people there to appease you, to settle you down, to make sure you weren't angry, would you make the nether? No. He says, I wouldn't have done it, then matirin oiso. Then we matir him through that, which is a form of charata. And Hodi also the kameder of Asi Amarle. So he said to him, so he said to him, in this case, so he said, do you regret, right, making this nether? Amarle, lo, right? Do I not? Right? Of course I do, right? The Sharia, and permitted it. And similarly, Haudas the Kameder of Belzar, Amarle, Bais nether, right? Do you want this nether? Amarle, right? If I didn't get angry, I wouldn't want this nether at all, right? No, it was only because I got angry did I make the nether. But if I wasn't angry, I wouldn't have wanted this nether at all. Samarle, therefore he says, right? It'll be like you wanted, right? You didn't want to become angry, you didn't want to make the nether, and therefore it'll be like you never made the nether, and the nether was permitted. And so there was a certain woman, I guess her daughter wasn't, acting appropriately, so she made a nether for her daughter. They can't get enough from her. She wanted a mattress. Also, the Kamed Rabbi Yechanan Amrle Ilu Havi Yadais. If you would have known the Amran at Marketicha that your neighbors are saying Allah the Rasicha that are saying about your daughter. Ilu Chamantebe Imay Milin Daziba Bichdilo Adarta. Mi Adarata. I'm just going to do a couple more lines down. So he said to him, right? He said to the woman, right? Says, if you knew that the neighbors were saying, right, that the only reason why you forbid your daughter the Adha from you was because she was acting inappropriately. In other words, basically, your neighbors are talking about your daughter's inappropriate behavior, right? So did you know that the mother must have seen her act inappropriately, right? Because and that's why she made the nether. If you knew your neighbors were saying this, would you have made the nether? Samrale, she said to him, no, I would not have. I didn't know that, now that she's going to be the talk of the town, the Sharia. And they permitted that nether. And finally, last case, and Barte de Rabbi Yanai Saba, the son of the daughter of Rabbi Saba, also the Kamed Rabbi Yanai Saba came before his grandfather Rabbi Yanai Saba, the elder Rabbi Yanai, Amerle, Ila V'yadais, the Basicha, Pinksa, Mishvashim Bavdech, Mina Darta. If you know that by making this nether, that they would open up your pinkas, your what's it called, your notes upstairs, right? They all of a sudden they look into your life upstairs because you made a nether. All of a sudden you brought attention to yourself. Then now they're going to go ahead and be looking at your actions in Shemayim. Would you have still made the nether? And I was be under this scrutiny. Samarle lo. He says, no, had I known to make this nether, I'd be under further scrutiny. And from Shemayim, I would never have made this nether. Visharia. And therefore, he permitted, Rabbi Yanai Saba permitted such a case. And where's the sources? I'm Rabbi Abba, my crow, what's the pasuk? The Achra Nadarim Levaker, right? And after Nadarim, do they search? Knows if there's a nether, they search. The Alpha got the pasuk, Rabbi Yanai le, Analoi Peskinale. And even though Rabbi Yanai was matter such a nether through, right? Because this through charata, through remorse, nevertheless, for being scrutinized, nevertheless, we do not go ahead, we matter another for a person having remorse because now he's under further scrutiny. All right, we'll stop here. Everybody have a wonderful day, and Mitzvah Shem will see you tomorrow.